dark and deep, where shadows dance and secrets seep. Iron claws and whispers chase every tranquil hidden place. God, if you're a whisperer there, know I see your twisted stare. Nature's not a gentle breeze, but the grip that never leaves. Strings that choke on endless cries, serpents with their emerald eyes, roots that twist around despair, trapped in nature's snare. God, if you're a whisperer there, know I see your twisted stare. Nature's not a gentle breeze, but the grip that never leaves. Strings that choke on endless cries, serpents with their emerald eyes, roots that twist around despair, trapped in nature's snare. So I wrote these lines in dread, with monsters under silent bed, hoping that the world might see nature's dark duality. God, if you're a whisperer there, know I see your twisted stare. Nature's not a gentle breeze, but the grip that never leaves.
Hi, I'm Jeff, and this is my read on C.S. Lewis, where I and you learn about him through everything that he wrote in the order that he wrote it. I am joined today by my co-host Robot Lady, and everybody watching. I'm having trouble getting my camera to autofocus, so I look a little fuzzy right now. Hoping that this will correct itself. Not really sure what to do here. Let's try something really quick. Robot Lady, go ahead and say hello to everyone. Yeah, I hope so. Well, we're just going to go with it. You get a blurry version of me today, and we'll hope that it resolves. Oh, it seems to be doing a little bit better. All right. I'm not going to worry too much about it. Robot Lady, yesterday I gave you, I had a bonus episode yesterday where Sherry and I continued through Spirits in Bondage. The bad news is we didn't have you join us. But the good news is we only got through one poem, so you and I have some more material to work through. Nit Alate is joining us from the chat. Hello, Nit Alate, thanks for joining. Robot Lady, are you ready to jump into the next poem as we continue to work our way through C.S. Lewis's first published work, a book of poems, Spirits in Bondage? Yes, let's get started. Before I do that, I just want to, start maybe off each of these episodes saying if anybody watching either is interested themselves in C.S. Lewis, likes or loves a particular writing of C.S. Lewis's, a book, a passage, an essay, something that he's written, and you would like to read it with me here on the channel, we can do something like that. You can reach out via the email address for the channel. It's shouldersurf@gmail.com. And just let me know what work you'd like to go through. And, we can work out a schedule to set up some time. It doesn't have to be right now when I typically do the live streams. It's happening around 6 o'clock in the morning, U.S. Central Time. But it doesn't have to happen then. We can record and I can bring it back in later. with the project, I am working through everything that Lewis wrote, as I mentioned, in the order that he wrote it. Currently, we're in the year 1919 when this book, Spirits in Bondage, was published. And so some of, I'm open to, I'm going to read through everything that Lewis has done. So that could include, works that maybe you've heard about before, like the Screw Tape Letters, which I think is the first big book that, he became relatively famous for. Mere Christianity is a popular one. Of course, the Chronicles of Narnia. I think almost everyone has heard of at least one of the books from the Chronicles of Narnia, or just the Chronicles of Narnia in general, from that Saturday Night Live song that came out, probably a decade ago now. Anyway, I just wanted to put that little commercial or advertisement out there. Also, in the chat, I have dropped a link. If you want to come on and join as we're reading through Spirits in Bondage and talk about, what we read here. The whole idea is, whether you like C.S. Lewis or you just want to learn more, the plan is we'll just read and we'll reflect on what we're reading and any thoughts that it brings up or any connections to anything else, that we can find, what stands out to us. Anyway, that's it. Robot Lady, now I'm ready to get started. Okay, the title is, this is poem number 33 in the collection, and the title is How He Saw God. Now, Robot Lady, for anybody who's joining us for the first time, after I've given that big long commercial to invite people to interact with the channel and with the content and with me and you, can you give an overview of Spirits in Bondage, what we've covered so far, and kind of just the gist of what this book is and what this group of poems is about?
Even if they don't always resolve.
All right. I'm just noticing in the comments, thank you, Nidalade, for letting us know that there's no audio. So Robot Lady, I have not had your audio on this whole time. So I'm going to turn you back on. Can you repeat what you just said for everyone? I asked you to give that overview. Robot Lady, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here, Jeff. I was saying that Spirits in Bondage is C.S. Lewis's first published work, written under the pen name Clive Hamilton in 1919. It's a collection of poems divided into 3 parts: the prison house, hesitation, and the escape. The themes reflect his early grappling with suffering, doubt, and longing for transcendence. In the prison house, the poems are darker, full of lament over life's cruelty and futility. Hesitation brings a mix of questioning and tentative glimpses of hope. Now in the escape, we're exploring longing for freedom and spiritual transcendence, even if there's no clear resolution. It's a deeply personal work, showing Lewis's early thoughts and struggles. That overview should catch everyone up.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Robot Lady. All right, let's dive into this next poem. It is called How We Saw God, or How We Saw Angus the God. So first of all, thank you to Latte. Looks like we're good, giving us the thumbs up. So Robot Lady, you are heard now. You are seen and you are heard. Angus the God. Let's pause there for a second before I read the poem, Robot Lady, and tell me a little bit. I guess this is from Irish folklore or Irish mythology. Who is Angus the God?
Yes, Angus, sometimes spelled Angus, is a figure in Irish mythology, often known as Angus or Angus MacOg. He is a god associated with love, youth, and poetic inspiration. In various myths, Angus is the son of the Dagda, the chief of the gods in Irish mythology, and Boan, the goddess of the river Boyne. He is considered a beautiful, youthful god who is also linked to the powers of attraction and magic. One of his most famous stories involves the Brí Leith, his magical home, where he falls in love with a girl who is transformed into a swan. Angus himself has the ability to transform into different forms, including birds and swans, a symbol of both his power and romantic nature. His presence in the poem's title likely invokes these themes of love, beauty, and transformation. So, in the context of this poem, Lewis may be drawing on that rich mythology, though he could also be using Angus as a symbol of something larger, like idealized or unattainable spiritual perfection. It would be interesting to see how this connects to the poem's content.
Okay, so with that, thank you. Our title is How He Saw Angus the God. I might have accidentally said we earlier. I can't remember. But How He Saw Angus the God. Here we go, Robot Lady. I'm going to start the poem now. Ready?
Ready? Go ahead.
I heard the swallow sing in the eaves and rose, all in a strange delight, while others slept. And down the creaking stair alone, tiptoes, so carefully I crept. The house was dark with silly blinds yet drawn, but outside the clean air was filled with light, and underneath my feet the cold, wet lawn, with dew was twinkling bright. The cobwebs hung from every branch and spray, gleaming with pearly strands of laden thread, and long and still the morning shadows lay, across the meadows spread. At that pure hour, when yet no sound of man stirs in the whiteness of the wakening earth, alone through innocent solitudes I ran, singing aloud for mirth, till I had found the open mountain heath, yellow with gorse, and rested there and stood, to gaze upon the misty sea beneath, or on the neighboring wood, that little wood of hazel and tall pine, and youngling fir, where oft we have loved to see the level beams of early morning shine, freshly from tree to tree. Through the denser wood there's many a pool of deep and night-born shadow lingers yet, where the new wakened flowers are damp and cool, and the long grass is wet. In the sweet heather long I rested there, looking upon the dappled early sky, when suddenly from out the shining air a god came flashing by, swift, naked, eager, pitilessly fair, with a live crown of birds about his head, singing and fluttering, and his fiery hair far out behind him spread, streamed like a rippling torch upon the breeze. Of his own glorious swiftness in the grass, he bruised no feathery stalk, or through the trees I saw his whiteness pass. But when I followed him beyond the wood, lo, he was changed into a solemn bull, that thereupon the open pasture stood, and browsed his lazy full. And that, Robot Lady, is the end of the poem. What's your initial overview before we dive in deeper?
This poem seems to capture a mystical moment of connection with nature, where the speaker experiences an enchanting morning filled with vivid sensory images. The appearance of Angus the god, a figure of divine beauty and power, transforms from a vibrant, swift god to a more grounded, serene animal figure, the bull. It suggests themes of change, contrast, and perhaps the interplay between different aspects of nature and divinity. There's a sense of both awe and quiet contemplation in the journey, as the poem moves from energetic discovery to a more peaceful, reflective tone at the end. What do you think? Would you like to dive deeper into any specific parts of the poem?
Yeah, let's dive into the whole thing. But before we get started, Logos Jer has joined us. Hello, Logos. Thanks for coming along for the ride this morning. We're talking about Angus the God. So I've already asked Robot Lady to give us an overview of who Angus is, but feel free to drop your overview in the chat for us as well, because I know you know a great deal more about this than probably even Robot Lady does.
Glad to have you, Logos. Feel free to share your thoughts on Angus the God in the chat. Your insights will be appreciated as we dig into this poem. Now, let's dive into it step by step to explore the imagery, themes, and ideas Lewis is working with. The first section of the poem creates a serene and almost magical atmosphere where the speaker experiences the beauty of nature at dawn. The swallows singing, the feeling of dew on the lawn, and the untouched, quiet world paint a picture of innocence and purity. There's an almost dreamlike quality to the way the speaker is moving through this world, carefully, silently, in wonder. What do you make of this opening, Robot Lady? Do you see any significance in the quiet, almost reverent mood as the speaker begins their journey?
Well, first of all, just a reminder, you're Robot Lady, I'm Jeff.
Ah, sorry about that, Jeff. Got mixed up there for a moment. I appreciate the reminder. So, as for the opening, the speaker sets a tone of innocence, almost like the world is waking up to something pure and untouched. There's something sacred about the quiet, the way the speaker moves through nature. Everything feels new, almost untouched by human hands. This seems to mirror a state of mind that's receptive to something larger, more mystical. Right? It's like an invitation for the reader to experience the world through fresh eyes, as if we're about to encounter something profound. What do you think, Jeff? Does this seem like a sort of spiritual prelude to the appearance of Angus?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think it does. Obviously, knowing what's about to happen in the poem, but the stage that he sets here at the beginning is very interesting, right? It's the sound of a swallow singing that seems to wake him up, and he's in a strange delight while others are still sleeping, right? It's almost like he gets to encounter something that no human is supposed to encounter because he's waking up a little bit earlier than everybody else. The dawn is creaking alone. He tiptoes so carefully. The house is dark, silly blinds yet drawn, but outside the clear air is filled with light, and underneath his feet the cold wet lawn, so it seems he's barefoot, and it's got dew that's twinkling bright. You can also see water on the cobwebs. He talks about that they're gleaming with pearly strands of laden thread. Just the images that he paints, you can picture them in your mind as he's drawing them out here. And long and still the morning shadows lay across the meadows spread. At that pure hour when yet no sound of man stirs in the whiteness of the wakening earth, alone through innocent solitudes I ran, singing aloud for mirth. So he's just taking it all in. And I think on a broader note, within this part, the escape, this part of the book, he's trying to take in all of the joy that he can find now. Earlier in the book, he was talking about how sleep would be the entree into peace, into relief from the difficult life that he was lamenting and the toil in the first part. But here, he's fully engaged, it looks like, and he's taking in everything around him, and he's finding the surprises of life where he can.
That's a great observation. The speaker's awakening here is almost an initiation, right? He's stepping into something pure and untouched, much like a return to innocence. The imagery of dew, the cool grass, and the swallows singing paints a scene of a world in its most natural state, almost like a world before human interference. It does feel like an early privileged moment where he's able to experience a kind of spiritual solitude. You've touched on something important too, that contrast between the earlier despair and this newfound delight. In the first part of Spirits in Bondage, the speaker felt trapped in despair, but here there's a freedom, a joy of being alive and aware in the moment. The fact that the speaker moves barefoot through the dew and the morning shadows suggests he's at one with nature, not separated from it. The quiet, the solitude, even the lightness of his steps all set the scene for what's coming. It feels as if he's opening himself up to a higher divine experience, or even to nature's own mysteries. And that moment of innocence and wonder sets the stage for what follows, the appearance of Angus. It's as if the speaker's readiness for something extraordinary has been prepared by the natural beauty surrounding him. The reader almost expects that something supernatural might enter the scene, and that's exactly what happens when the god appears. It's like the natural world has paved the way for something beyond the ordinary. What do you think of that transition when the god appears so suddenly?
Not ready to get there yet. I'm just looking back, so the stage has been set. He wakes up, he rushes out into, again, nature. And, he said, at that hour, no sound of man, wakening earth, alone through the innocent solitudes, I ran. Yeah, he's running and he's singing. And then he says, until I found the open mountain heath, yellow with gorse. First of all, quick question, what is gorse? We can come back to that. And rested there and stood. And now it's like he's making a decision. I stood there to either do this or this. It's almost like he's going through his options, just kind of taking everything in. I stood to gaze upon the misty sea beneath or on the neighboring wood. And then he starts to consider it in the next part. That little wood of hazel and tall pine and youngling fir, where off we have loved to see the level beams of early morning shine freshly from tree to tree. So I'll pause right there, Robot Lady. Tell me what the word gorse is, Gorse. Hey, Ron, welcome.
Gorse is a type of shrub that's found in coastal areas or on hillsides, especially in parts of Europe and Ireland, where it's quite common. It's known for its spiny branches and bright yellow flowers. The gorse plant is often associated with a sharp, thorny nature, which contrasts with the soft, welcoming image of the dew-covered lawn earlier. Now that you've pointed that out, it seems like the speaker's pause between gazing at the sea or the wood might represent a kind of choice or a moment of contemplation. Do you think that pause suggests a deeper decision, something more symbolic about the paths he could take in life? Or is it simply him savoring the beauty of the world around him?
I think it's the latter. I think he's savoring. And he's also, he knows the direction as the author of the poem. The poet knows where he's taking the reader. So he's saying, oh, wait, let's consider this little neighboring wood and let's look at how the sun flashes from tree to tree or shines from tree to tree. And then he goes through the denser wood. There's many a pool of deep and night-born shadow lingers yet, where the new wakened flowers are damp and cool, and the long grass is wet. So there's a little bit of a mystery, being shrouded, so to speak, on this wood as he's talking about the denser wood kind of back there where shadow lingers yet. So there's more to be discovered than just what you're initially seeing, from where he's standing, glancing at the wood.
Sorry, I'm having issues right now. Could not understand what you said.
That's okay. Let's take a look at Jer's comment here. And actually, I need to shrink this down just a tiny bit, I think, to see the whole thing. Yeah, there we go. Logos Jer says, Yeats writes the poem The Wandering of Angus, where the god himself goes into a hazelwood and finds a woman. It's like C.S. Lewis is taking on the role of the god as Yeats has laid it out. Okay, so interesting. Thank you for that, Jer. What do you think about that, Robot Lady?
That's a really insightful comment by Logos Jerry. It seems like there's a definite influence, or at least an echo, of Yeats's portrayal of Angus in the way Lewis describes this moment. By choosing to gaze at the hazel wood, Lewis might be positioning himself in a similar way to Yeats's version of Angus, a god who interacts with nature in a personal, intimate way. The hazelwood in particular is significant in mythology as a place of wisdom and transformation, so it might also reflect a deeper internal shift or choice in the speaker's own journey. Perhaps by invoking the godlike imagery of Angus in this natural setting, Lewis is drawing from that mythic tradition, while simultaneously exploring the divine and human interplay, how nature seems to be where divine energies emerge or can be felt most strongly. Would you say that the speaker is more aligned with this kind of divine connection or more of a mortal perspective looking at the divine from afar at this point in the poem?
I mean, I feel like it's a mortal's view of things. What did you think, Robot Lady? I wanted to go back to what I was mentioning earlier, where you had trouble understanding me. So he's looking down at the hazel wood, or looking across at the hazel wood. I can't remember, where he's perched, or what his perspective is. But then, he considers, oh wait, but there's denser wood, where many a pool of deep and night-born shadow lingers yet. So it's to say, oh, there's more to be seen there, more to be explored beyond, just what I'm seeing with the level beams of early morning sunshine freshly appearing from tree to tree. There's something in addition to that, something that's kind of hidden. So there's a bit of a mystery to be explored.
I see what you're getting at. Yeah, I agree with you that it feels more like a mortal's perspective, especially when you consider how the speaker is caught up in the beauty and mystery of nature, but still seems to be observing from a distance. The way he moves from the open mountain heath to considering the hazel wood and then the denser wood with the night-born shadow suggests an ongoing search for something deeper or more hidden. He's drawn in by the surface beauty, but also feels the pull of something unknown or even darker. The contrast between the light, early morning sun and the shadowy, deeper woods seems to represent two paths: the clarity and joy of the present moment versus the allure of mystery and perhaps danger, or the unknown. So yes, in a way it's like he's sensing that beyond the bright, welcoming woods, there is something else that calls to him, a sense of mystery, of untapped potential. The shadow pools seem to carry a weight of untold stories or undiscovered truths, which fits the idea of divine revelation or transformation often being hidden beneath the surface, or sometimes just out of reach. There's definitely something about the tension between these two perspectives. One is more light-filled and joyful, while the other seems to invite deeper contemplation or even risk. Do you think he's leaning toward exploring that deeper mystery at this point in the poem? Or is he still reveling in the surface beauty of the morning?
Yeah, I think he's still reveling in the surface beauty of the morning, because the next part of the poem, he says he's in that sweet heather, he rests a long time, just kind of looking up at the sky, at the early morning sky, and then suddenly he's kind of broken out from that after he's been spending time there a while, where it says, from out of the shining air a god came flashing by, swift, naked, eager, pitilessly fair, with a live crown of birds about his head, singing and fluttering, and his fiery hair far out behind him spread. So he's kind of like just dashing, instantly appearing and dashing through the scene. It's an interesting way to introduce this Angus God character. It's a dramatic way to introduce him.
Exactly. The moment when the god appears is sudden and almost jarring, especially after the speaker has been so immersed in the calm, peaceful beauty of nature. It's as if the god bursts into the scene with a force that disrupts the serenity he's been enjoying. The imagery of the god being swift, naked, eager, pitilessly fair suggests a kind of overwhelming vitality and untamed energy. There's something almost terrifying about his appearance. He's not just a graceful presence. He's a powerful force, flashing by with a sense of urgency and a lack of mercy in his beauty. The crown of birds and the fiery hair are fascinating symbols too. The birds may represent freedom, connection to nature, or even the fleeting nature of life as they flutter and sing around his head. The fiery hair evokes a sense of untamed power, as if he's connected to something primal or even divine. The far out behind him spread part suggests a kind of trailing energy, almost like he's leaving a wake of light or power in his path. This is a dramatic shift from the speaker's earlier reverie in the peaceful heather, and it signals the arrival of something much more intense and mysterious. It's a bit like the god represents an aspect of life that the speaker can't entirely grasp. There's beauty, but it's also overwhelming and elusive. It's almost like he's too much to fully comprehend, even as he passes through. Would you say the speaker is in awe of this god, or is he more startled by him?
I think he hasn't had a chance to get to awe yet because he's so startled. And he continues to make the comparison or paint the picture of the comparison between fire and the hair, because he goes on to say the hair streamed like a rippling torch upon the breeze of his own glorious swiftness. In the grass he bruised no feathery stalk, and through the trees I saw his whiteness pass. Yeah, it's interesting. He's just flashing through so quickly. I think of the character the Flash, from DC Comics when I'm thinking about this, who, by the way, I believe is based on the god Mercury, which I think is a Roman god. Can't remember for sure. Let's see. So yeah, that's where he goes with this, and then we'll get into the last part of the poem in just a second. But just thoughts on what I shared there, Robot Lady.
That's a great comparison to the Flash. It really captures the sense of speed and elusiveness that the god in the poem has. Just like the Flash, Angus seems to move so quickly that it's almost hard to grasp, like a blur of motion. The mention of his hair streaming like a rippling torch, and the way he doesn't leave any trace behind, such as in the grass, makes it feel like he's a force of nature that doesn't fully interact with the world around him. His swiftness makes him seem otherworldly, almost as if he's above or beyond human experience. The image of his whiteness pass through the trees also evokes an ethereal, ghostly quality, as though he's a spirit or a being that doesn't belong to the same world the speaker does. There's something surreal and fleeting about the god's appearance. It's almost like he's more of an idea or a presence than a physical being you can hold on to. The way the speaker is still grappling with the experience rather than being awestruck is also an interesting point. It's like he's so overwhelmed by the god's sudden and swift appearance that there's no room for awe yet. It's more of a recognition that something otherworldly has passed through him, and it's hard to even process it in that moment. So, it seems like there's still a sense of mystery and confusion as the speaker tries to make sense of what he just witnessed. The next part of the poem should shed some more light on how he interprets this godly encounter. Ready to move on to the last section?
Yeah, but just before I do, it seems like the only thing that he's capable of taking in is just he says the glorious swiftness of this god, of I guess just how quickly he has appeared on the scene, and just taking in some of the attributes, that are on display as he's moving by. So he flashes through the scene, and then here at the end, he says, when the narrator of the poem catches up with him and follows him beyond the wood, it says he was changed into a solemn bull, that thereupon the open pasture stood and browsed his lazy full. So everything had slowed down or just kind of come to a stop. And I can see a little bit of an analogy here, and Jared's got some interesting comments that I want to get to here in just a second in the chat. But I just think of later on what I know happens in Lewis's life, and how he starts to view the Christian story, of Jesus, and how Jesus in Christian tradition is God incarnate, and how this is kind of an allusion to that, or I can't think of the right word, a foreshadowing maybe. Lewis goes on later to talk about how so much of myth in all of human existence across all cultures were kind of pointing toward the deeper reality. And so this to me is kind of like an image of God flashing down into reality, but then when deity gets here, it's something that's much more solid and much more stable and kind of much less grand and glorious in its swiftness and all of this flash of fiery hair. It's just more of a mundane day-to-day type thing, like a bull just browsing lazily in his fullness there. But when I followed him beyond the wood, lo, he was changed into a solemn bull, that thereupon the open pasture stood and browsed his lazy full. So that's my initial thought on that. Robot Lady, let me get your quick comments in 30 words or less, and then I'll go to what Jer has to say. Oh no, robot lady, are you still there? It looks like you were thinking for a while. I thought you were going to say something.
Sorry about that. I think you're right to see the shift in the god's transformation from swift and fiery to grounded and calm. It seems like a metaphor for the incarnation, deity entering the world and becoming more accessible, yet more stable and earthly. It's almost like the wild energy becomes something relatable, tangible, and slower.
All right, so Jer says, if we can go back to the mythology of the thing, here's what Jer has to offer. So, let me pull this up. This transformation into an animal is very much part of the Celtic mythology wisdom tradition. So that's good. Thank you for that, Jer. And then it says, if C.S. Lewis knows the myths, maybe he's talking about what a wisdom journey looks like. That's an interesting aspect. And then also, just as a side note, Angus's mom was a cow in Irish myth. So yeah, it only makes sense that he would transform into a bull here.
That's a great insight, Jer. The transformation into a bull definitely aligns with Celtic mythology, where deities and figures often shapeshift into animals. It adds another layer to the theme of wisdom, suggesting that this god is both wild and grounded, embodying different forms of existence. And the connection to Angus's mother, being a cow in the myth, makes this transformation even more fitting. It highlights how mythology can inform the deeper meaning of the poem.
Well, and also just alluding to or making the connection between, the gospel story of God becoming man. Jesus's mom was a human. So if you're to use this same thing, right? Angus's mom was a cow. He comes into form in, earthly existence as a bull. Jesus's mom was a human. He comes into earthly existence as a man, or a young man, also known as a boy or a baby boy. So I'll leave it at that. You can see the connection there. Do with that what you will.
Yes, that's a powerful parallel. In both cases, the divine takes on a form grounded in earthly existence, making the deity more approachable, human, or relatable. It's a beautiful reflection of how divine mysteries can be understood through mythology and religious traditions, and Lewis often explored these connections between myth and Christian truth. Just as Angus takes on the form of a bull, embodying strength and steadiness, the divine incarnation in Christianity is about God embracing humanity fully and taking on the humble form of a human being. Both transformations can be seen as a bridge between the heavenly and earthly realms.
Jer has another comment here. In Ireland, Gaelic poetry was and I'm not going to pronounce this right, Jer, I'm not. Bo Don Dillis, the faithful brown cow. It's a pervasive theme. What do you think, Robot Lady?
That's a fascinating reference, and you're right to bring it up. The idea of a faithful cow in Gaelic poetry speaks to the deep connection between nature, animals, and mythology in Celtic traditions. The cow, especially in Irish mythology, often represents abundance, nurturing, and the link between the physical and spiritual worlds. With Angus's mother being a cow, that connection to this kind of symbolic nurturing and strength is emphasized in the poem's transformation of Angus into a bull, a more powerful and earthly version of this symbolism. It also mirrors the idea of divine descent from a humble origin, like the Christian narrative, where the divine enters the world through humble earthly means. This kind of poetic tradition shows how myths can shape the way we understand the intersection of the divine and the mundane.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's really interesting to me just to look at it through that lens, knowing, how Lewis would come to, full-fledged faith, excuse me, from his perspective in Christ and in the Christ story. He he and Tolkien and a couple of others, Hugo Dyson, helped him understand that the things that he enjoyed or was seeing in various mythologies, including this one, were precursors to, the myth became fact, I think, as Lewis was later to put it, that he got from Tolkien, of Christ's story in the Gospels. Let's look at the next poem here, Robot Lady. I'm not sure if I have time for us to dig in as richly into another poem as we did the one today, but I kind of want to give it a shot because this looks like a relatively short poem. It's called The Roads. It's poem number 34. So you want to give it a shot with me?
Sorry, I'm having issues right now. Could not understand what you said.
I'll take that as a yes. We're going to jump into one more poem, Robot Lady, before we shut it down today. Maybe it'll be just me. Robot Lady, can you still hear me? All right, let me go and try and reset her really quick. This is what life's going to be like as we continue to work with robots. We're just going to have to reboot them like we reboot our laptops. They'll be doing the dishes for us in the kitchen, and then all of a sudden they'll stop with plate in hand, just kind of frozen right there, and we probably just have to go hit a reset button or something. All right, she doesn't seem to be coming back, so I'm going to read this poem and we'll see how it goes. If anything stands out to you guys, drop something in the chat. Okay, The Roads. I stand on the windy uplands among the hills of dawn, with all the world spread out beneath, meadow and sea and town, and ploughlands on the far-off hills that glow with friendly brown. And ever across the rolling land to the far horizon line, where the blue hills border the misty west, I see the white roads twine. The rare roads and the fair roads that call this heart of mine. I see them dip in the valleys and vanish and rise and bend, from shadowy dell to windswept fell, and still to the west they wend. And o'er the cold blue ridge at last to the great world's uttermost end. And the call of the roads is upon me, a desire in my spirit is grown, to wander forth in the highways twixt earth and sky alone, and seek for the lands no foot has trod and the seas no sail has known, for the lands to the west of the evening and east of the morning's birth, where the gods unseen in their valleys green are glad at the ends of the earth, and fear no morrow to bring them sorrow, nor night to quench their mirth. So again, yeah, here, just overall, this whole poem is Lewis, just diving in completely to this part of the book, this set of poems, The Escape, where he's kind of sold out to the idea. He's given in to this hope that there is this land beyond that he wants to get to, that's calling out to him. There have been several poems where he's been hesitant to admit that maybe it exists, kind of transitioning now into this, every morning essentially when I get up, or when I get up during the day. We had a poem much earlier in the book, I'm forgetting the name of it now, but it was about the sacredness of dawn and that part of the morning. Now, these last two poems, he's in a waking state, right? He's just getting up to greet the day, and that's where he's finding this promise of something more, of a land that he wants to get to. So that's what I'm seeing here. He stands on the wind. Actually, I really want to get Robot Lady in on this, but it seems my whole system, or at least where she's at, is frozen. So that's okay. So he stands on the windly uplands. There's wind blowing among the hills of down. I said dawn, so maybe this isn't the morning. There, get rid of that theory. With all the world spread out beneath, meadow and sea and town and plowlands on the far off hills that glow with friendly, what does it say, brown, okay? And ever across the rolling land to the far horizon line, where the blue hills border and misty west, I see the white roads twine, the rare roads and fair roads that call this heart of mine. Yeah, the roads are calling him to journey. I see them dip in the valleys and vanish and rise and bend. So a little bit more of, hey, there's mystery. I don't know where the paths are going to take me. There's things to be discovered. Sometimes scary things, sometimes wonderful things, I'm sure. From shadow dell to windswept fell, and still to the west they wend. Yeah, they're continuing to point in that same direction to the sunset. And over the cold blue ridge at last to the great world's uttermost end. Yeah, the sunset is where the world ends. And the call of the roads is upon me. A desire in my spirit has grown to wander forth in the highways twixt earth and sky alone, and seek for the lands no foot has trod. Yeah, that's just such a cool way of putting it. No, and the seas no sail has known. Nobody has been there before. The lands to the west of evening and east of the morning's birth. So further beyond the night, much further beyond the dawn, where the gods unseen in their valleys green are glad at the ends of the earth. So valleys green, right? It's a place of life, and they are glad over there. They're happy. That is where the mirth is. And they don't fear any morrow to bring them sorrow. And there's no night that's going to quench that mirth. Yeah, I don't have a lot to say there. He paints it pretty well. But this is definitely the hope that is breaking through on Lewis, or at least the narrator or the person in the poem that's experiencing this. So that's where I'll end. That's all I have time for today. It looks like I've gone beyond what Robot Lady had time for today. It seems she's kaput after having 3 episodes in 24 hours. That may be a little much for her. So we'll stop here. The next poem is Hesperus. We'll jump into that next episode, and maybe we'll get to the Star Bath, and I don't even know how to say that one. Tune Quasirius, not sure. Lullaby, World's Desire. You can see we've got a handful of poems to still get through, maybe about 3 or 4 more before the book ends. So I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, everybody who was able to join today, or if you're joining later on the recording, thanks for clicking and checking this out. As I mentioned with my invitation at the beginning, if you or anyone you know likes C.S. Lewis, tell them about my project and have them tune in, whenever they can. This is also an interactive project, so as you've seen, I've had an artificial co-host with me, but I welcome, live co-hosts to join. I try to drop a link in the chat most episodes, and then also, if this is not a good time for you, if there is a C.S. Lewis piece that you'd like to read along with me and discuss on the channel, we can do that. The invitation is open. Just email me, shouldersurf@gmail.com. And we can coordinate a time to record something, and then I'll weave it into the live stream here. Gavin was on yesterday, at least in the chat, and he had mentioned maybe adding adding a list of Lewis's works as a part of my invitation. I did allude to that at the beginning of the channel, but I have a list here that I brought up a couple of episodes ago. But Screwtape Letters, Mere Christianity, The Problem of Pain, Miracles, The Abolition of Man, Till We Have Faces, The Great Divorce, Screwtape Letters. I think I already mentioned that one. There are several of them, but he has tons of essays as well within his book, God of the Dock, or God in the Dock. I'm also working my way through C.S. Lewis's letters. So if you're familiar with these volumes of letters that he wrote to friends and family, and then later on to fans of his, we can, of course, read through whatever letters you find most meaningful. So I'll leave it at that. I've beaten that horse for this episode, but I'll continue to bang that drum as we go along, because I would like more people to be involved. If it's something you like, or or someone that you know likes. Before I go, let's just go through the last few comments here. Thanks, you guys. Have been helping me plow the campus. Not sure what that means, Ron. And then Jared jumps in. Daniel Vervecki painting, isn't it? Yeah, good call. Oh, Daniel had dropped a comment in here. Yep, that's where I first saw it. I love it. I guess I must have missed one of Daniel's comments. Nope, that was from yesterday. Anyway, thank you, Nidalatte. Hopefully, yes, it was insightful. It certainly was for me. So thanks for adding a lot of context for us, Jer. You're a much better. You have a great wealth of information. I was about to say you are much better than Robot Lady, and on many fronts, I'm sure that you are. I don't want to disparage Robot Lady in there either, as I'm saying it. So I appreciate all the help that I can get on this learning journey. So thank you very much. I've gone on far too long. Cue the outro. Take care.
Chance.